Hi, my name is Vince Farrell and I'm an applications engineer at Hawkridge Systems. You might have seen our other video about configuring materials with a design table, but if you haven't, take a look. It offers a great introduction to design tables, but today I'm going to go more in depth on this powerful tool. If you've been using configurations in your parts or assembly, you're likely familiar with the ability to change geometry, making it so that you have multiple part iterations within one part. If you're not using a design table, your current process could look like this. Clicking on the configuration manager, right-clicking in the blank area, and clicking on add configuration. With a design table, you can create multiple configurations at once while adding in all the parameters you'd like to change all inside the Excel interface. First thing I want to do before I start my design table is do a little model housekeeping. So SOLIDWORKS gives all these features the default names. I want to change the one I'm going to put in my design table, which is this Cut Extrude 3. I could either do that using that name on feature creation when I created the feature to change the name, or I can just left click on it, hit F2 on my keyboard, and change the name here to shaft hole. Click off in the graphics area. That will accept that change. Once that's done, I want to expose the dimensions. I can do this a couple different ways. Right click on the annotations folder here, click on display annotations. That's going to bring up all the annotations in the part, but I'm just interested in the dimensions for this shaft hole, so I'm going to double click on that. That exposes those dimensions. The next thing I want to do is expose the dimension names. It's under my heads up toolbar right here, the global hide show, and D1, this view dimension names, turn that on, and now we can see the actual dimension names. That's going to be important there later. Let's double click that, get that back up there. Okay, so because I expose those dimensions, you can see these are really generic names, D1, D1 here. Let's double click in there, and that will expose that actual D1 name there. If I select on it, I can change this to hole diameter. Okay, hit the green check, and double click on that one, and this one's going to be hole depth. Okay, enough setup for now. Just wanted to show you guys that so that this will be important shortly when I'm creating the design table. Now, creating the design table is easy. Click on Insert, go down here to the bottom, Tables, Design Table, and it brings it up right there. When we look at this property manager, we have a few options here at the top. Source, that either create a blank file, which is what I'm going to do, blank table. I can auto create, which will pull in all the configurations inside the part and any parameters that have been changed between those configurations. So that's a nice way to do it if you already have existing configurations in your part. We look at this edit control. This will either allow the model edits to update or change the design table, or you can block any changes to the model, and all changes have to be done to the design table. These options down here will allow you to automatically add in new rows, columns if you add any of these new parameters. Okay, so we'll start with the blank table. Hit the green check. And you can see the first thing it does is it opens up that Excel table right there in our graphics area, and then all the existing configurations that are in the part are listed there. We can see the defaults there. I'm just going to add that one in there. So now we can take a look at the design table layout here. So A1 is reserved for the part name, or the table name with the part name in it. A2 is always blank. This column A, below, A3, and below, these are all your configuration names, and then marching across here, B2, C2, those are where all the parameters are going to go. So I need to expose those dimensions again, so I'm just going to double click on that shaft hole. Doing that adds in this shaft hole parameter there with suppressed or unsuppressed. I don't want that in there, so I'm just going to delete that column. But I'm going to click back in this B2, and the first thing I'm going to do is add in this hole diameter. So double click on that, and then it automatically puts me over into C2. I can put in that whole depth. So there's those values for that first instance configuration. I'm going to change this to initial. I'm also going to add in a new configuration down here, which will be final. Let's take these values as just like Excel, so select them, Control C, Control C, Control V. Okay, and then the final sizing I want for those dimensions is going to be 0.385 there and 0.08 for there. Clicking off into the graphics area gets us out of the design table. Okay, and you can see we get a message saying that initial and final configurations were added to the part. Great, hit OK. Now if we go over to our configuration manager, we can see we have two new configurations there, final and initial. So I can double click there, my dimensions have changed, and I can double click on the initial. Again, my dimensions have changed. So really easy way to create new configurations within a part. If we want to get back into the design table, you can see here we have a tables folder. Underneath it is that design table. If I right click on it, edit table will bring up that table back in the graphics area just like we had it before. We can also say edit table in a new window. What this will do will bring up the table in Excel. Let me get this so you guys can see it. And now we're inside Excel right now, so if you find editing things inside Excel easier, like I do, then you can just do it this way. Okay, so create a new configuration here, middle, and put some dimensions in there. Close that out. Once we do that, get the same information. Middle's been added here, and now we have a middle configuration. So last thing we can do here is we can save this table out, and that saves it out as an external Excel file. Again, you can bring that into this existing part and have those be linked, or you could use it for another part if you'd like. You just need to make sure those parameters are linked correctly. If you decide to do that, save this table out, have as an external file, you need to go back in, edit the feature, and then you'll use this last option here, the from file. Also, editing those features gives you the ability to make any of those changes that we had when we initially set up this table. In today's video, I covered creating and modifying a design table in a part. I really hope you enjoyed this video, and if so, please give the video a like. Also, subscribe to our Hawkridge Systems channel to see more videos like this one, and as always, thanks so much for watching.